is Lindsay and Caro Madrid. Say hey, Caro.
Hey, guys.
This is Unfiltered Caregiver, and we're a podcast talking about home health, the good, the bad, the ugly, and just things you need to be educated about. So today's topic is, should caregivers do private pay or work for an agency or facility? And there's pros and cons to both of those. So Caro, you've done both. Tell us about, the pros and cons and what you like to do in those situations.
So honestly, I prefer private. The pay is so much better. I get to be in charge of my schedule, especially as a mother. I enjoy that, it's cash. Or they do Zelle, they do cash. To me, that works a lot.
Okay. So you're not really worried about like having someone do payroll services for you. Like you're not worried about those things because a lot of caregivers like that. So I mean, a lot of caregivers will say, I like the cash flow. I like being able to make my own hours with private, but private sometimes isn't consistent because, hey, like I'm a caregiver myself and I have a private lady right now. But guess what? In 3 weeks, my job is over. So like I've made some really good cash, right? And I've done my own hours. And, she's like a family member to me, but now she doesn't need me anymore. So I'm private. Now I need to look for my next caregiver. I mean, my next family. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like sketchy. Whereas some people might say, yeah, the cash is really good, but we need consistency. I need to know that I'm going to have a job right after this next job, right? Someone's going to take care of my payroll for me. The hours are set. If I lose a client, I have another client lined up. So some people want that security. You know what I mean? Me privately, I personally like to work private. I've never worked for an agency or a facility. I just kind of chose not wanting to do that. But is it stressful sometimes? Hell yes. Like I need to look for a new client after this one bails. You know what I mean? Like it's a little nerve-wracking.
That is definitely true. Most negative things that I can think of. When is my next client gonna fall?
Right.
When am I gonna get my next family? Other than that, private is great due to the pay.
But also I'd say private is good because in a facility, you have like 8 clients. You have 8 patients you're working for. You know what I mean?
And you're making less money.
You're making less money. Totally.
Less money.
Right. But once again, people want that security. You know what I mean? It's like it works both ways. I mean, there's pros and cons. Let's go over the cons. So there's no guaranteed hours. Families can cancel suddenly. There's no benefits or PTO usually. Boundaries can get blurred. Caregivers might not have legal protection. Payment issues can happen. Emotional burnout from being deeply involved, right? Working for a traditional home health care agency, there's pros. Steady referrals. Payroll taxes are handled. Some offer training and support backup. If the caregivers have an emergency, there's more structure. There's documentation that's, easy to read and understand. And it's easier for newer caregivers entering the field. So going back to that, for instance, I got 2 texts this week asking me, hey, Lindsay, how do I become a caregiver, right? A caregiver starting out, I would not recommend going private, okay? Because let's just say you have a Parkinson's patient or a person that, is bedbound and you've never been a caregiver before, you don't know how to transfer. You don't know how to, change their depends all day long. You don't know how to do standby assistant showers. If someone's going to come into that caregiving realm, I would say be a companion first. You know what I mean? Or go into a facility because you're going to have training right there. There's pros and cons to both of them. You know what I mean? It's like, I think taking a risk on being private is that you need to be a hustler. You need to know that, God, if I know this patient, I'm done with them in 2 weeks, I better be looking all over the place for my next new patient because things happen, right? Someone dies. All of these things, someone decides they don't like you anymore. Someone decides they don't need you anymore, right? So once again, there's pros and cons to all of these things.
To what you're saying, I started caregiving for an agency. That's how I got my training.
Okay.
It was all training through agencies, and then I started doing private care.
Right.
Right now, to this moment, I really love private care because you have one-on-one, getting paid more than having multiple clients, multiple families, and agencies stay with most of the money.
Right. So once again, people come to me because, I have a platform. My company is called Finding Home Care. I have a platform of over 9,000 caregivers that follow me. And because I'm a huge advocate for them getting paid a certain wage, like no less than $25 an hour, between 25 and 30. So caregivers really stay with me. They stay with the families. They're consistent. They get paid better than most agencies. I'm not going to say all agencies. A lot of agencies do pay well, but they have overhead. So they're taking that chunk out of your check. They have to pay for liability, workman's comp, rent, this and that. So, they might be charging a family $50 an hour, but you're getting $18 an hour on a W-2 walking home with 16, right? Once again, pros and cons to all of this stuff. I prefer being a private caregiver. It took me a while to learn how to do certain tasks. My first client of 6 years had Parkinson's, and it didn't start off bad. It started off with a little bit of dyskinesia. That's motions that you just can't really control, and then it went over the years to non-mobile completely. So in the beginning, she can take a shower by herself. I'm standby assist. I make some meals. We have some fun. We go out to Starbucks. But over the years, the Parkinson's turned into mad dementia. So we had, she was angry all day long. She was non-mobile. And so the whole job just kind of changed from the beginning to the end. But I was able to learn that on the job. So when people call me and they're like I said, hey, Lindsay, how do I become a caregiver? Honestly, my first thing to you is go on care.com. Do not go on Craigslist. Go on to care.com. Do a profile for yourself. Once you do a profile and a bio for yourself, there's tons of families that you can reach out to that might just say, hey, my mom is lonely throughout the day. We work a 9 to 5 in another part of the state or the city. Can you take her out to Starbucks, right? So you're starting off as a caregiver, but it's more of a companion. You're getting your feet wet. If you want to advance as a caregiver, you might want to become a CNA. But my thing about a CNA is, listen, there's great CNAs and they do get paid very well in hospitals, okay? But a lot of agencies don't pay CNAs well. And so my thing is, you can be an incredible caregiver and get paid just as much as a CNA for your knowledge and skill set. If you decide to be a CNA because you want to be an LVN or an RN, because that's the only way you can be those two things if you have a CNA license, then hey, more power to you, right? But like, for instance, you're not a CNA. You're one of my best caregivers. You get paid great wages. And
That's thanks to you
well,
because
thank
you
you.
advocate, and I've even got up to 45 an hour.
You are so empathetic, caring, and loving, and you have this skill set across the board. But once again, you started off at an agency facility where you learned on the job. You learned on the job. You know what I mean?
With
So
every client, it's new
it's
experiences, and every family, it's just been years of experience.
right, right. It's all different. I
So
mean,
that is amazing advice for you to tell, women who want or men who want to become new caregivers. Start a facility, start with an agency, and just move your way up.
so my company is fightinghomecare.net. Over 135 5-star reviews. I would love to help you once again navigate the senior arena or any kind of home health care arena. You want to say goodbye?
Bye, guys.
Bye. Next time. Bye.